welcome to preparations for Ordinary Sunday 16 and travelling through Luke, the well-known but very pithy and very short passage of Martha and Mary, or Mary and Martha. And welcome to you in Oanaka, Damon, no longer just across the hill, but some distance from where I am here in Otipoti, Dunedin. Welcome, Deborah in Hawke's Bay and Lisa Emerson in Palmerston North. And short passage, plenty in it. Damon, some background.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. It's a great part of Luke's Gospel. I've just got three relatively short things to say in to set the context or the scene for this particular reading. The first thing is just a bit of a reminder that it's part of the journey narrative in Luke's Gospel, which began back in chapter 9 when Jesus set his face towards Jerusalem and ends with the entry of Jesus into Jerusalem. So we know that this passage is going to be something about what it means to follow. It's about discipleship. That's the first point to make. The second one is its immediate context, that it follows on from the story of the Good Samaritan, and one that we know very well, having just heard it in our churches last Sunday. That response of Jesus to the question of the lawyer, when he says at the very end, "Go and do likewise." In terms of what he had to say about who is my neighbor. So it's two things. It's part of the travel narrative. It follows on from the story of the Good Samaritan. But the other thing I think is quite interesting, just in terms of setting the scene, is that we're familiar with Mary and Martha, mostly from John's Gospel, John chapter 11, and the raising of Lazarus. And then in John chapter 12, when it follows on. And in that particular one, Martha again is serving. Lazarus is at the table, and Mary is the one who anoints Jesus with perfume. But we need to remember that in Luke's Gospel, this particular passage is the first time that we hear of Mary and Martha, and Lazarus isn't mentioned. So three quick things. One about it being placed in the travel narrative of Luke's Gospel. The second in terms of it follows on from the story, the parable of the Good Samaritan. And then firstly, this is the first time that we have met Mary and Martha in Luke's Gospel.
All right, thank you. Sets the scene. Let's move straight in and start finding, Lisa, what is challenging.
I've always found this reading really challenging. For most of my life, I've been the classic superwoman. 4 children, busy job, busy at church. I'm the eldest daughter, I'm the eldest grandchild. So, any family celebrations happened at my place and required massive amounts of work. I epitomized the saying, if you want something done, ask a busy person. That was me. And I took pride in that. And anything that told me to slow down really annoyed me. Those things that come up on Facebook. Oh. And I used to look at this passage and think, Martha, she does all the work and she gets criticized for it. So I was totally sympathized with Martha. Someone had to do the cooking. But recently my life has changed, and I've retired and my youngest child has left home. And my instinct was to rush and find busy things to do to replace those responsibilities. But the invitation to God for me has been to slow down and listen and pay attention. And that has been so hard. It goes against all my conditioning. It goes against everything I think I am. But it is absolutely wonderful. It is transformative. I cannot tell you how it's changed my life.
Well, that's deeply empathetic reading, and I hope we hear more stemming out of that incredible transition. But first we go to Deborah before that. Deborah.
I am also the eldest child in my family. I mean, if there were teams, and quite honestly, I think to put them into make this a Mary versus Martha story is the wrong way of looking at it. But if there were, I'm clearly Team Martha. But it's interesting what the narrator says. But Martha was distracted by her many tasks. I mean, the word that gets used for what Martha is doing is diakonia, her service, and her ministry, if you like. So for me, I think the challenge is how to be faithful in a world of ministry, whether that's ordained ministry or lay ministry, where there are endless good and necessary tasks, as indeed Martha getting the meal ready was a good and necessary task. How can we be faithful in endless good and necessary tasks without getting, as one commentator puts it, completely discombobulated? Does that prayer and the daily devotions on Friday morning help us to decide what best to do, next to do, and what to do at all? And that kind of resonates, I think, for me with this story.
Okay, thank you for that. And we'll see where Damon's reading finds challenges.
Yeah, well, I was the youngest child in my family.
There's some of us around.
Yeah, it had to be someone, didn't it, too? And I certainly, I resonate though with both what Lisa and Deborah has said, is how do we find those moments in our lives for stillness and slowing down. And it's interesting that this Sunday, which this reading is going to be read on, is also National Bible Sunday. And so I think there's something quite challenging about that. How do we make room in our own lives to sit at the feet of Jesus and to listen, to really listen to what he is saying?
Thanks, Damon. And yeah, that's a powerful challenge, I think, just making time. So let's look at finding good news. Deborah, where do you begin to break that open?
I think it's the comment that Martha makes to Jesus, do you not care that my sister has left me to do all the work? And that do you not care, we've met this one before in Mark's Gospel. A couple of Sundays ago, I was doing a See Sunday service, and it's that bit in Mark, do you not care that we are perishing? And Jesus actually does care and gets up and stills the storm. I think the good news in this passage for Martha and for us, if we can hear it, is actually I think Jesus does care what we're going through. And I kind of hope that he would still the storm that's going on in Martha's heart.
Yeah, and that's powerful at a personal level, powerful at an international and global level. Do you not care? Yeah, to hear that good news is very important. Damon, for you, good news.
Yeah, I think my good news is can also be a challenge for some as well, and that's the radical nature of this text. Where once again we see Jesus breaking all manner of boundaries, social boundaries, and the fact that he's received as a guest into the home of two women is radical in itself in its time. But then he also has this woman, Mary, sitting at his feet as in the place of someone sitting at the feet of a rabbi. And so here we're given a picture of Mary as a disciple of Jesus. And I think that is, it can't be understated really, the radical nature of this text. And we know throughout the generations, there have been many women who have shown us what it means to be followers of Jesus. And here's one in our scripture and in Luke's gospel. So that's good news.
It really is. Lisa, for you?
Yeah, so that was my first one. Just that Jesus doesn't deal in gender stereotyping. The idea that would have been a woman sitting amongst the men when hospitality needed to be done at that time would have been outrageous. But the other good news, I think, is the joy and transformation that happens when we do sit and listen. And to you Marthas out there, sorry, it might not be the time for you to be a Mary at the moment, but I feel it's been an absolute privilege to have been given this moment in my life when I have the space to be still, and it's breathtaking. And last Sunday, our priest said in his homily, what we do doesn't matter so much. Our call is to holiness. And that's how I feel about the call to sit and listen. It's a call to be transformed by and to holiness. And that's good news.
All right, lovely. Thank you for that. Let's then apply that. Damon, so what?
Yeah, I mean, often we compare Mary with Martha, whereas I actually think in many respects this particular passage asks us to compare it with the story that just precedes it, which is the one of the Good Samaritan, which is very much about active engagement with human need, which we've also spoken about. And there's a time for that. There is a time for that. And there's also the time for us to find stillness, to listen, and to learn. And so we are to emulate both the example of the Good Samaritan and also of these two women, and also in particular, in this case, of Mary. And I just want to read a poem, and I'm a great fan of another Mary, Mary Oliver, and I came across this poem which speaks into this text, I think. It says, today I'm flying low and I'm not saying a word. I'm setting all the voodoos of ambition sleep. I'm letting, sorry, all the voodoos of ambition sleep. The world goes on as it must, the bees in the garden rumbling a little, the fish leaping, the gnats getting eaten, and so forth. But I'm taking the day off, quiet as a feather. I hardly move, though really I'm travelling a terrific distance. Stillness, one of the doors into the temple.
Thank you. Deborah, for you, so what?
I might sneak in a second one. I think two things. One, you're distracted by much diaconia. The challenge, that the so what, is not to let ourselves get so distracted by all the tasks of ministry that we forget to listen to Jesus. That doing without listening is not not the way to go. And the other, and this really is a takeaway, a so what for me. Martha, you are worried and distracted by many things. There's need of only one thing. So stop trying to multitask.
Well, there we are. Yeah, absolutely. And let's hear from you, Lisa.
Well, my so what is for all the Marthas of any gender out there, the busy people. I think it's okay. I don't think we're called to be Marys at all times in all lives. And Jesus clearly loved Martha just as he loved Mary. And for me, I love that moment in John's Gospel because he says to Martha, I am the resurrection and the life. Do you believe this? And she says, yes, Lord, I do. And she knew him. She trusted him. She loved him as much as Mary did. And I think when we're Marthas, we're still blessed. Jesus eats at our table and he notices our weary hands. But if you are a Martha who's transitioning into Mary like me, then this can be really difficult. So I have one piece of advice, and that is to find a space where you can sit without distractions. I find it almost impossible to be still at home. I can see all the washing that needs to be done and the tidying that needs to be done. So I actually head out to my church 3 times a week just to sit for half an hour and be fully present. But if you can't do that, I think to have a space where you can sit and be with God, somewhere that you associate with quietness, and then you breathe in worry and breathe out grace. You breathe in busyness and breathe out love and joy. You welcome him in just for a few moments at first. And the key thing is to let him do the work of holiness, to let him transform you.
Thank you, Lisa. And I find it profound that all 3 of you have broken through the temptation to a binary here. And, we need to breathe in and to breathe out. We need that gateway to transcendence, and we need to do some work occasionally. So thank you, the 3 of you, for really wrestling with this little passage that has so much to offer. Thanks for being here.